Welcome everyone. I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium, a Taino Airwalk. This is my Dear Ivy show where I give you free advice on any topic under the sun. This is not a free readings show. If you need to book a reading with me, you can go to ivyriverapsychicmedium.com. So I'm going to encourage everyone to please drop your question in the feed. Jill, my beautiful producer, will be taking your questions from wherever they are and then popping them up on the screen here on YouTube. Anything goes. This is a play off of Dear Abby, the famous columnist. I used to read her column when I was a little kid and drink my coffee and pretend to be her, and I always wanted to do this. So I started it a couple months ago, and it's been a big hit. All right, so I appreciate your continued support. Please drop a comment of any kind. It really does help me out in the algorithm. Give this video a thumbs up, and please do hit that subscribe button and share. Let's go ahead and get on to our first question, Jill. What have we got? Ray's sister says, when you are struggling financially and feeling anxious over it, how do you keep your energy positive to not freeze up your manifestation? I think, first of all, something really important to do is to lay off the fear of manifestation blocks, because we have so many people out there pushing manifestation and life coaching and whatnot because they're getting paid to do it. You know, so they're really pushing some points excessively, like any negative thought you have is going to be a block. Any negative feeling that you have is going to deter your blessing from coming in. You're preventing it by thinking that way. Relax, okay? Like, these people need to chill out because they're causing a bigger problem. Try to not think about an elephant right now, okay? How many different elephants and different outfits do you now see in your head, right? Just circling around, just hogging up space in the room. There's a freaking elephant in the room right now, okay? You can't not do something to get something. You have to just try to be in alignment as much as you possibly can with what you want. So try to get that part out of your mind as much as possible. And the way to be in better alignment mentally and emotionally with something that you want is just to be mindful throughout the day and the night. Pay attention to your dreams, stress dreaming, nightmares, symbology, things that could interfere with the positivity. You know, pay attention, be mindful of your thoughts and your feelings, even the tension in your body, right? The anxiety, the nervousness. And when you catch that you're doing it, stop yourself, work through it, accept it, confront it, move beyond it, let it pass. You know, you don't have to just keep ignoring it. We can acknowledge that we're having a moment of like toxic thinking, stinking thinking, whatever it is, a moment of fear, a moment of anxiety. So addressing it, getting comfortable in the discomfort, as I like to say, is really key. And then letting it pass by. That requires mindfulness. So don't be avoidant and escapist in your life. You know, there are a lot of zombies walking around in society who just like never think. They're always drunk or getting ready to be drunk or recovering from being drunk. You know, they're always like looking for the next person they can sleep with, or, you know, addicted to porn, addicted to video games, overconsumption of stuff and food. It's all escapism. It's all avoidance. If you can just be centered, and you can be mindful enough in that energy of center to see what is passing through you, right? Thoughts and feelings and energy. Then you can detect when the negative thoughts are there more easily. And you can make sure they continue to pass on through. Or if you struggle with it, like I have OCD, so I get stuck in loops. I have to actively, it's a lot of labor, but I have to actively take that thought and be like, stop the negative thought, replace it actively with something more positive. So what would that be? That would be like what I have to do personally because of my OCD is I have to catch something and then visualize something else that I really want or feels good, is an emotional positive trigger for me. And I'll stay in that energy. People talk about manifestation taking 15 to 30 plus seconds. I would agree with that for the most part. I think that if you stay with it, Okay, that positive energy, I'm really living it out. Like I see myself on my yacht. I see myself traveling from country to country. I published this book. I'm doing a book signing. I'm looking forward to a nice dinner at this great hotel, and I'm hanging out with someone like a da 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 da. I've got all these storylines, right? I get so into it. I'm 15, 30 seconds into it. I'm back in alignment and I'm manifesting. Now, same rule applies for the reverse. Okay, another reason you shouldn't panic about every negative thought you have, because did you dwell on it for 15, 30 plus seconds? No, it just kind of popped in and, passed. Okay, then don't, try not to worry. Let's move on to another one. Thank you, Ray's sister, for that. Inspired Soul says, hey, Ivy, how do you know it's time to do psychic readings, mediumship readings, Reiki healings? When I don't do them, I feel lost. But sometimes I feel like it isn't the right time or not ready. I don't ask. I simply show up to be of service because I understand that this is a calling on my life. I stopped doing journalism. I took a nearly $100,000 degree and flushed it down the toilet. I knew when I had to start doing this for the public. It was 4 years of trauma. I cried for 6 years probably on it. Every now and again, I'll just have a breakdown anyways. It was not an easy transition for me, but it was something that was always present in my life from birth. I knew I needed to do this. I didn't know I needed, and the calling on my life was going to be to do it quite this much. But it is. Once I really faced it, I have no doubts. So I would say that if you have a lot of doubts, maybe you're not ready to do it. Maybe you need to work more on the self or your skill set or shadow work or, self-healing, whatever it is. I think that there is, for those of us who know this is why we're here, there is no debate. And when you really get to that point where it's not just going to be something you offer people from time to time, but it is an entire lifestyle, then you don't really turn it on and off all the time. You're showing up every day because you are essentially running a ministry, okay? Or you could say you're running a business. You're showing up because you have a website and people are booking appointments and you're making yourself available for things like that. Now, the only time I started doing this for the public, when I stopped journalism and I transitioned into this full time, it was 4 months and it was full time. It blew up overnight. It was full time. There was no way to get out of it. I couldn't fit anything else into this schedule but this. Now, while that was a blessing, it also put me on this sort of fast track where nothing else came in from that date. So I want to say that was around 2011, 2012. Since then, I have stopped only if I had an illness, not because I was afraid I would bring my negative juju in, okay, not that, but because I needed to rest. I stopped for me, okay? So if you ever start to feel like, I don't know that I should be reading people because I feel like I'm putting my negative energy onto them, that's a sign that you need to work in that area, because I have never, even in my deepest life crises, stopped working for that. I have no fear that I am channeling my pain or trauma or negativity that I'm going through in my personal life over to my clients, because I know how to remove my ego. And that's how I train my students. You have to know how to remove yourself fully to be a clean channel. Now, when you don't know how to do this, you are kind of tainting your readings. You may fully be tainting your readings, your healings, everything else in your life, because you're not fully owning your own energy. So that should not be spilling over. And that can create a lot of disturbance. I would even say this is probably what creates the most disturbances to those people who want to go out and do spiritual work is that they realize they have unfinished business within themselves, and it's affecting their readings. It's affecting their healings. It's affecting their ability to show up in the way that they want, you know? And so they step back, which is great, but you're supposed to step back and fix that and then get back in the game, you know? And what they tend to do is just step back, and kind of once it sort of passes a little bit, they come back, and then it keeps happening. It's like crabgrass. So there are a couple key things that you can focus on, but when you know you're ready, and there is no going back. So you'll know. All right, we're going to move on to another one. Josie says, hi, Ivy. So what exactly is going on when you think about someone? I was wondering, I know exactly what question this is, because I heard this when I was trying to flat iron my hair today in the heat and I was like, who's going to ask this? So what exactly is going on when you think about someone? More like someone you don't know well, not a friend. And then a couple days later, you see them in public or something, like at a store. Okay. So what's going on is that we have connections to certain people, not everybody, okay, but certain people. We do have connections. And when we have a lesson that we're supposed to learn from either that person specifically or what that person represents in your symbol base, let's say, then it'll come up over and over and over again until you've learned that lesson, or you've, you know, gotten whatever information is there that you're supposed to be taking from that person. And you want to be mindful that people are very much symbols. So the way our brain categorizes people is really for the sake of safety, right? So you know that there are some people who have a deceptive vibe, and then you have some people that have an okay vibe, and then you have some people that have a really great vibe, you know, things like this. Some people remind you of other people, and you automatically categorize them, whether you intend to or not. You automatically categorize them with those other people who've done those same things. It's just pattern recognition, really. It's just an intelligence. And so that's what you're doing. Okay. So the first thing you need to ask with this is, you know, what does that person represent to me? What environment is that individual from? What have been your previous thoughts, discernment toward this person? You know, or do you think there's something more going on there where you're going to need to interact with them a bit more in the future? Right? If you do, it'll keep happening and you'll have that opportunity. And I would highly recommend engaging with it. I am obsessed with different people of all, whether, you know, it's romantic or it's just an acquaintance or it's some type of like a business partnership or it's a friend. I get obsessed with these relationships that I know I have a contract with. It's like, what is this about? Why does this keep crossing my path? And, you know, what are we supposed to do with it? I mean, it really is kind of magical. And I think the most important thing to remember is that having a human experience is always at the root going to equate to lessons, you know. So what are the lessons? And yeah, you want to take the time to engage with this person. But when we find that we've categorized someone as a symbol, it's about that area of your life in general that you need to look at. There may be some healing, some truths being revealed in that area. There could be some growth or karma that you're working through in that area. Okay, so it's not necessarily about that person. That person is simply the symbol, like any other number or bird, okay, or any other message that could come to you. Really interesting. Love that. Thank you, Josie. We have another question coming in. Hi, Danelle Davidson-Jaros. Good to see you. So Ray asks, is being murdered a part of someone's life contract? Or is it solely based on free will? So it's not one or the other. I see a lot of people who are murdered, and I try to relay this to the family, the friends who are in mourning, but it doesn't always hit the way I would hope. A lot of people have signed on in their life contract before they came to Earth the determination that their final death point, because you do get maybe 5 to 7 of these, I'll talk about that, but they have determined, meaning when they filled out their life contract before they came to Earth, this is what they requested. They filled this out. They signed that contract to be murdered. Now, when this happens, and I just saw this happen a couple months ago on a criminal investigations case I was working on, when we see something like this happen, it is typically part of a much bigger storyline. Like their passing is going to protect others. It is a call to action. It is potentially going to bring justice, maybe not even just to them, and maybe not even in your lifetime witnessing it, but eventually, because they're part of a storyline. Okay, for any of you who work in activism, you know, it's one step forward. It can sometimes feel like 2 steps back. It's 1 step forward. You know, it's good for 10 years. It gets rolled back. It's pull it. But, you know, it's like pulling an elephant up a mountain. That's weird. That elephant symbology here again today, which is power, strength, the feminine, community. So, which is funny because that's kind of what we're talking about here, right? It's them signing on to dying in that way because they know that what they do in that passing is going to be exposed on a much larger scale, and it's going to fulfill karma in some significant way. And we see this also with people who take on certain diseases. People will fill out in their life contract, and if anyone listening here is a healer, hi TikTok. If anyone listening here is a healer, you know, you've gone in sometimes to do like a psychic surgery on someone, and like a spirit will step in, or the person's higher mind will step in and say, "Don't touch this. It's contracted. It's contracted. It is fixed. It is set. It is destined. It is written in the stars. Don't touch this person. You're just slowing it down or interfering." So the individual who's dying may not always remember that, but their higher mind does. And people sign on to things like that, for example, because it's going to teach everyone around them significant life lessons or fulfill certain karma. You can tell when it's contracted. Now, let's say it isn't. Well, that goes back to the point I was making about having 5 to 7 different death points. If you've ever sat with a good Vedic astrologer who looks at the dark stuff and isn't afraid to show you, you know, they'll show you these death points. They look like little triangles. And if you've ever sat with a psychic medium who isn't going to bullshit, you know, behind the scenes, not at a reading. It's not professional to tell someone when they're going to die. Okay. That is bad. I do not endorse it. I fail my students if they ever say anything like that. But I'm talking about socially. Okay. You're ever talking to a psychic medium, you're ever talking to a Vedic astrologer, they will admit to you that they can see the death points for themselves, for other people. Death points are highly negotiable, just like most things in life that are, yes, somewhat destiny charted, but you still have free will. Free will can still manipulate either how you respond or maybe change the course of some things. So you can pick and choose up until a certain point. And a lot of people who die from a murder, they knew they weren't supposed to be there. They knew they weren't supposed to go on that trip, or they weren't supposed to stay in that relationship, or they weren't supposed to talk to that person, or they weren't supposed to go out drinking that night, or they weren't supposed to, you know what I mean, be on that side of town, you know. Maybe they knew they were supposed to stay at the hotel and they wandered off anyways. And they were like, I'm just going to wander off. I'm going to go have a good time. and they're murdered. Essentially what happens is that, you know, they had these 5 to 7 different death points, with the final one being the conclusion point. You can't negotiate that last one, okay? You're going to kick it at some point. But they could have stayed here longer on Earth, and they fucked it up, basically, okay? They weren't listening to their intuition. So you do know ahead of time. But we don't always listen to our gut. Okay. But yeah, sometimes it is contracted. Yeah. So it's not one or the other, you know, it depends. I would have to look at it and see which is which, depending on the individual. Okay. Thank you for that question. Very interesting. We have another one coming in here from Nancy Ann. If you are tuning in late, please give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment of any kind, or even if everyone could just drop a little heart emoji right now, it would help me out so much in the algorithm. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Can everyone drop a heart right now? Thank you so much, TikTok. Always my best supporters. Love you guys. So we are taking questions of any kind. It's just free advice. Okay. And if you need a reading, psychic mediumship reading, you can go on to Ivy Rivera's psychicmedium.com. How do I learn from my past lives? From Nancy Ann. Nancy Ann, how do you learn from your past lives? I think the most important thing is to not get super overwhelmed. A lot of people go to hypnotherapists to tap into their past lives. I do not recommend. I see a lot of people get stuck in that energy and have lifelong trauma because of that energy. And it's, how do I want to say this? It's not that you can't access that information. We can access pretty much any information in the universe, past, present, future. Okay. Obviously, I've made a career out of it, but should you? And something like hypnotherapy can take you to that place. So can really extreme deep states of meditation or different kinds of drug use. Be careful going too deep. Here's what I would recommend with your past lives. Only in this life, try to just focus on the past lives that are relevant to this life. Let's say you have 50 past lives. The maximum amount of past life sharing I see people have with who they are now in this life is like maybe 4 lives. So they take different sections of their life and they share with who they were in that past life. They share tasks that are unfinished. It's like having a to-do list. They share the energy of who they were, especially in regards to like whether they had a lot of like masculine energy or feminine energy. They share in the skill set, the tools, the wisdom, and the failures, even the gluttony, the obsessions, like whatever it is, right? So they share in those characteristics, those traits, the knowledge base, the vibe, the energy, and then they have to do the work, learn the lessons, take whatever happened in that past life either into a state of completion or at least up to the next level. All right, so that's already a lot, especially if you've incorporated 3 to 4 past lives into this life where you're going to share with that other you, that other part of you. Now, it's when we start getting into all the other stuff. Who have you ever been and when, and all these traumas and stuff you don't need to know about and stuff you don't have the capacity to work through. It becomes like burnout or trauma. Or I have a lot of people who come to me who are just, they're in a state of, it's almost like despair. And it almost looks to me like a schizophrenic episode. I can't prescribe a diagnosis and they cannot get back. You know, so just be careful, especially with things like hypnotherapy, the drug use, deep states of meditation that are taking you deliberately on this journey. Now, easiest thing to do with past life influence is get in touch with your Akashic Record Guide. There's a class up on my website called Meet Your Guides, where I introduce you to your Akashic through an exercise. You could do this on your own anytime, of course. Your Akashic Record Guide holds all of your past life information and is assisting you in working through the relevant stuff for this life. Not only the relevant stuff for this life, but the most relevant stuff for you right now. Okay. So it's like Nancy Ann, you know, is like, you know, 38 or 48 and she's working through this past life stuff right now. Let's keep her on track with that so she can utilize this. The other thing that you're going to notice is naturally, and this is why you don't have to go into deep states, naturally, your past life, when it's ready to be dealt with, you're ready to do the unfinished business and or utilize the tools and the skills from that past life. You get ready for it ahead of time. It is not a conscious decision to do so. You will start to show up almost like a presenting dream in your own dreams. Okay, so you're having past life flashbacks. You're eventually going to be having deja vus. You know, you're doing time travel back into that time. You're having, you know, these sort of epiphany moments when you're awake, like prophecy or visions. You're meeting other people in your life who were connected to that past life. So it's not just you reconnecting with your old self. It's you reconnecting with all the freaking people that you have been reincarnated with to do this over again. It's nuts. They know it. You know it. Everyone's having the visions. Everyone's having the dreams. You got soulmates popping up. You got soul tribe members popping up. You got karmic partners popping up. There's no way you're going to miss this. So it's not hard. It's just a matter of being aware and then starting to ask those important questions. What is the work? What is the point? What is the bigger storyline here? It's really, really exciting. Yeah, start there. You can also book a past life reading with me. I don't force you into hypnosis or anything. I just tell you which ones are affecting you in this life and then give you a sort of idea of where to start looking, because I break it down by ages. I do the same thing when I do a life contract reading for you. I'm breaking down what ages you're affected by who you were and what work you're trying to get done and who you're supposed to be meeting up with again. You know, yeah, it'll come naturally. We're going to move on to another one. Hello, Emily. Hello, the Furies from Texas. Awesome. Thank you for the hearts, everybody. I appreciate you guys. Jen says, believing in reincarnation and the fact that time is man-made, can your soul be in two timelines at once? Yeah. So, I mean, it's really no different than like, I'm giving a reading and I'm here, but I'm in the future, you know, energetically, because I'm reading the future. You see it a lot when you're sleeping. You know, you're maybe doing astral travel, you're going back into the past, or you're going into the future. You know, you're fixing things, but technically you're here now. Yeah, absolutely. I believe in time travel. I believe in multiple timelines, 100%. Yep. We also, something interesting with that to me is always that people who want to become a guide, because no human is going to become an angel, but humans do, if they're really evolving and doing the labor, they do have the potential, some of them, to become actual spirit guides. And I see it a lot with these people. It's like multiple, you know, you're helping someone else over here, you know, in the future, you're healing things from the past, you're here presently as yourself. It's like you're working. It's like you're working in the future in another dimension for what maybe you'll become when you die. You know, maybe you'll pass away. I think we would all love to do this at this point. Just pass away and become a guide, never have to reincarnate as a human again. You know, that would be great. But yeah, absolutely. You could be multiple timelines at once. And we should pay attention to that more. You know, like keep a journal of it, especially with the deja vus. Let's move on to another one we have from Lindsay. Lindsay says, how do I learn to center myself, perform self-love, and build courage to make the moves I need to make in my life? I've been getting this question a lot. I did a video on this the other day. I said in the video, people don't really like to hear my answer with this, and the video didn't get many views, so I'm not surprised. But this has been coming up a lot. And the answer to this question, okay, how do I learn to center myself, perform self-love, and build courage to make the moves that I want to make in life? So it may seem like, well, who the heck is asking this big, long-ass question? If you really break it down, it's all connected. It is A, center yourself. B, focus on self-love, and then C, the courage automatically comes, and you would never settle for less in your life circumstances. These things are all connected. And that's why if you feel like you're caught in a loop and you're constantly like, why am I dealing with this again? Why haven't I learned this yet? Why isn't it working? Why am I not able to be consistent? That's why. Because you're some area, you're thinking of this in categories, and it's like a spider web. Everything is connected. There are no categories, okay? So learning to center yourself is about reparenting yourself for most of us, okay? Especially if you're a girl. I could just straight out of the gate say you were raised up in a patriarchal society, so you were not allowed to center yourself. You were trained from the time you were in diapers to center men. Now, what does that mean, centering men? Well, that's centering the patriarchy and capitalism, all other forms and systems of toxicity. So you don't center you. That's a sin. That makes you a bad girl, right? You are to center everyone else, basically, and be a pawn in the game. So you have to break down, deprogram, reparent yourself to identify where you're not centering yourself. You're overreaching, you're inauthentically giving, you're giving automatically, whatever it is. And then you come back. I'm coming back to me. I'm coming back to me. You'll notice it in moments, the more time you spend working on this. You'll notice it in moments when, hold on one second. Jill, do we have a couple more coming in? Could you block out my calendar for 30 more minutes? And if I have something booked, then just let me know and I'll have to wrap it up. Okay. Give me a thumbs up. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. So you'll notice it in moments. How do you know if you're not centering yourself? Well, your nervous system gets dysregulated. Now, it's probably dysregulated on a full-time basis, but it'll be even more dysregulated. You will get irritated, agitated. You'll basically turn into a big old bitch and you don't understand why. And you'll probably lash out at someone else who didn't ask you to sacrifice anything for them, right? Maybe you're beating your own self up. Maybe you take it out on your own self. You have low self-esteem. You are going to notice that you have patterns of overgiving, overreaching, inauthentically giving of your time, attention, energy, skill set, whatever it is, and you shouldn't have done it. And the physical, mental, emotional, energetic response to it is anger, righteous anger, because it does come from a place of victimization. Technically, it does, because you were programmed to sell yourself out in that way. Okay, so you're raging against the machine. You are wanting to stop it, but we tend to overlook that. The remedy for that in society and the systems has been rage is bad. Being angry is bad. Good girls don't get angry, or if they do, they don't show it. So let that righteous anger and rage come out. And the best way to let it come out is not to make the mistake in the first place. Okay, so learn how to get centered, and then whenever someone comes toward you or at you or request something, or you're analyzing whether or not your job is paying enough, or if your love partner is bringing enough to the table, is there reciprocity in balance? Is this, working for me or against me? As you look at those things, you make adjustments. And when something comes near you that says, I want to, extract from your energy, and you're not feeling like it's going to pay you back enough, you say, hell no. And you get into a pattern in your life where, like, eventually the requests don't even come as often. Okay. So it starts there. I would also say the next part, this is kind of a long question, but I think it's worth it to go over in pieces here. I'll wrap this one up quick though. Self-love. How do you give more self-love? Well, first is staying centered and choosing yourself. Okay. So we're not centering men. We're not centering the patriarchy. We're not centering money. We're not centering, right? All of us girls, especially. I'm not saying, men aren't forced to do this in some ways, but, especially with women, it's not centering someone else's health or needs or the family or this or that or the other. No. It's centering yourself. Then comes the self-love, because once you're saying no to more things and you're making sure that you're balanced, you're going to be able to more easily identify all the times throughout the day that you say no to yourself and you're not supposed to. How many times a day do you know you're supposed to take a break and you refuse? How many times in the evening do you know you're supposed to put your feet up and rest? And you're like, just one more thing, just one more thing, just one more thing. How many times are you supposed to, whatever it is, you know what I mean? And you tell yourself it's not necessary, or I don't need it, or you won't treat yourself to something. You got to stop doing that. So I would say that, you know, for maybe the next 5 days, if you're really serious about it, do it for like 3 to 4 weeks, because stuff doesn't always come up every day. But write down all the times throughout the day, keep a journal that you told yourself no, and look that over later on and say, should I have given myself that thing? And then what do? You put it into action. You're telling the universe, I'm serious about my self-love journey, a lifestyle. Okay, it's not entertainment, it's a new lifestyle. I am going to stop and give myself whatever the hell I need, whatever the heck I want, whatever I deserve, you know, and not because I earned it, because I deserve it. And those are really two different things. Automatically from that, courage will come. That's not something you have to work at. All right, let's move on to another one. Richard Thrift, good to see you. Ashika, welcome. I would love to hear in the comment section where everyone is tuning in from. Emily Davis says, why do I have bad dreams almost every night? Okay, at least you're remembering your dreams. So it's less of a problem than blocked dreaming. But in my dreams class, I would highly recommend you get it. It's a 2-hour-long training up on the website. I break down nightmares, stress dreaming, which can lead to blocked dreaming, meaning your brain can't take anymore. You are so freaking stressed at night when you're sleeping, when you're supposed to be in the most restful state, that your brain just says, forget it, I can't even do this anymore, and you stop recalling your dreams. A lot of people who get into blocked dreaming can spend 5 years or more stuck like that. So don't let it get to that point, okay? But we're not there yet. So what you have right now is stress dreaming, nightmares, night terrors. A couple different things can be going on with this. If you are having genuine night terrors, and I don't think you are, but it wouldn't hurt to cleanse the house. You know, when I do paranormal consultations, it's one of the things that stand out to me the most. If I see someone having night terrors, meaning there is an entity, there is paranormal activity coming in and disrupting that person, waking them up in a state of trauma, deliberately, to steal their energy, to siphon their energy. I talk about in the class Monsters, Inc., the Disney cartoon. Who's seen this? This was brilliant and really accurate for the way it works. This town in Monsters, Inc., so freaking cute. They would all go every night and terrorize children and then bottle the fear, and the fear lit up, right? All the technology that they needed. It was their form of electricity. It was currency, and it is. That's accurate. So essentially what you're doing is you're saying, if there's any lower negative energy in my house, in my bedroom, in my space, you can clear that out. So do a cleansing on that space and set better boundaries. Nothing can bother you during that time. It cannot siphon your energy. Another reason it can happen is because you're unhappy with some things going on in your life, hidden or obvious. You know some changes need to be made, and it's essentially haunting you. Okay, a lot of people get this too with unfinished business. Like you have something that you want to repair, maybe with another person, but it could just be in general. And so you're working all night, you're trying to fix it. And it's like overwhelming you because it's probably on a deadline or it's past due. It's something that should have been taken care of already. And so now it's just like a past due bill. This is late, pay the bill, pay the bill, pay the bill. So when you're supposed to be resting, your subconscious mind says, I need to fix the problems in my daily life because I'm not doing it while I'm awake. I need to fix this. I have to fix this. The responsibility is on me. And it just, okay. So do an analysis on what needs to change. Yeah, especially when it gets to be every night. You got to fix it, nip it in the bud, because that's your sacred space. That's your sacred time of rest and recuperation. There is no better medicine than sleep. All right. Good luck, Emily. If you think it's paranormal, book a paranormal consult with me, but I think it'll be all right. The Furies Visa, Together We Rise. Should I do a DBA for each business endeavor? Okay. I have an LLC for pizza, but not my apothecary. Any ideas if I should do the DBA so separate products can be licensed and permitted correctly? Well, I mean, you may want to book a money reading with me or a psychic mediumship reading. I'm not doing those tonight for free, of course, but so I can look at this more from that angle, because I would have to look into the future to see whether or not this can pay out for you. As a business owner, I can tell you that I do think, having an LLC and having everything sort of under that umbrella is always the smartest way to go. Yeah, put it under. Try to talk to your, because I can't give, financial advice in this capacity, of course, but like talk to your financial advisor about what, for tax purposes and any potential, I'm not saying I see it happening, but lawsuit, purposes, what is going to bring you the most benefits, keep you the most protected long term. You're going to want to look at things like that. Any ideas if I should do the DBA so separate products can be licensed and permitted correctly? I do feel like that could help you in the way that you've worded this. It seems like you feel stuck, and sometimes you do. You just have to take that next step. I had a DBA for a really long time, and my accountant was like, when are you going to pull your act together? And like, why are you never leveling up? Because I'm just not business oriented in that way. It wasn't ever a thought of mine. So I don't put it as a priority, and it did cost me, for sure. And so luckily I had him on my back constantly, getting me to level up. And so in recent years I have no regrets. I will tell you that. And I plan to do it again here in a minute. Good luck with that. Emily said, thanks, Ivy. You're so welcome. Ashika. Okay, Ashika, welcome. Okay, Emily says, so true. Christina Hernandez. I've always been curious, why do we think about someone? Is it us or is it them thinking about us? Maybe this is the question I saw when I was doing my hair. I think this is the one. Is it us or is it them thinking about us? Because I was seeing cord pulling, energy manipulation, and telepathy. How does that work? Why do people randomly pop up in our minds? Okay, well, very similar to what the other girl asked. These are in the same family. So for those of you who are just tuning in, go back and watch what the other girl asked, because these two can even happen literally, okay, at the same time. So a lot of synchronicity going on here. So when you think about someone, it is not 100% guaranteed that the reason you're thinking about them is because they're thinking about you. That's not 100% guaranteed. It is very possible, though. And when we're dealing with a lot of like sexual tension, or we're dealing with like a love interest, or we're dealing with some lunatic who hates you, or, anything that's kind of really passionate energy, anytime that person is thinking about you, you could feel the tug. They can show up in your dreams, signs and symbols of them everywhere, you thinking on them popping into your head. There are a lot of different ways it's going to come up, but it will be repetitive, almost like incessant. It is not hard to know when someone is pulling and tugging at your energy, voluntarily or involuntarily. I would say it's not hard, especially if it's romantic or controlling, which is, they may think it's the same thing, but it's invasive like that. I would say if you work with it enough, it's not hard to tell if they did it accidentally or they're doing it purposely. Because if they're doing it purposely, they're also going to show up in your dreams. It's a guarantee, usually within like a 24-hour period. So you'll know if they're doing it, how they're doing it. You can even get deeper into why they're doing it, and you have choices. You can bind, you can block, you can ignore, you can play. What do you want to do with it? You can play dumb. It's usually what we end up doing because it's weird. But we all do it. We all do it even involuntarily, I would say. Okay, mostly. Now, the alternative is that you're thinking on them. You're thinking on them because you either have some type of a connection, like maybe they're a family member, whether you talk to them or not, whether you deal with them or not, you're estranged or not, it doesn't matter. You'll know, okay? People from your main group, you'll know when something is going on with them. So you'll think about them. You may have unfinished business with them. You may be about to encounter them in some way, or there's something important going on there. Sometimes I'll be thinking like Jill, my producer here, sometimes I'll be like, God, I'm thinking about Jill a lot today. Like, what the heck is going on? But I'm busy, I'm doing stuff, and I'm like, I'm going to hear from her in a minute. Something's going on. And then Jill will pop up and have this thing going on, And I'm like, okay, that's what it is. I have a connection to her, soul tribe members. So we work together. We do things together. We build together. We maintain things together in the light working world and otherwise. And so if anything's going on with Jill, I'm going to be thinking on Jill. She's not thinking about me at all. She's thinking about the things she's dealing with. Okay, but I'm going to pick up on that. So it could be something like that. It could be, most of the time though, if you are thinking about someone and you really don't know why, that there's unfinished business there. And that does not mean, do not misunderstand this. That does not mean you're supposed to reach out to your ex. That just means you are now ready to do that work. Okay, so pay attention. Yeah, I think I got to all of that. So funny. That's the one I saw. But they're both kind of the same. Hilarious. Okay, do we have any more questions coming in? I see. Hi, Maraid. How are you? Maraid says, hi, Ivy. Any suggestions or tips for psychic mediums who are trying to further build their client list? Further build your client list. Testimonials. Testimonials are a big deal. Get those testimonials from your clients and showcase the hell out of them. I'll take a testimonial and I will put it up as like a post, or I'll put it on a beautiful photograph, and then I will turn it into a video. And, these used to get, when I started doing this, they were not getting many views. And now, like, they're getting quite a lot of views. Like, people are clearly watching this and studying this. And I've seen a significant increase in new clients since I started pushing that. Clients from everywhere, from all corners of the world. And, I'm like, where did you hear? Where, and a lot of people will say, well, social media, or they'll say specifically TikTok. Even Maraid, I think that's how you found me, right? So they'll say TikTok, and that's all videography, all of it, right? Everything is a video. So take a testimonial, find a way to make it interesting enough with the music and the visual that people will take a look at it, because no one wants to hear your stuff. You know what I mean? No one wants to look at a testimonial when it could be something you wrote for your own business. Nobody wants to see that. So you got to sweeten it a little bit, but do not dismiss them. A lot of people do. They dismiss their testimonials because it is debatable whether or not it's real. Also, I take mine only exclusively off of Google, because there's no way Google is letting me or anyone I know who's frequently doing this, come and put up fake testimonials. These are legit. So take them from a legitimate space like that and showcase them. I would also say that you have to be consistent. The biggest downfall that I see with mediums is that they're working, they're not working. They're working, they're not working. Someone had asked this earlier. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing psychic mediumship readings or something like that, she said, and then she was like, sometimes I just don't. Biggest mistake. Either you do or you don't. It's like, either you will or you won't. Either you are showing up to be of service or you're not, because this wishy-washy energy is the biggest, hands down mistake I see with my students, who get out there, they get certified, and then they're like, okay, I'm ready to go get professional readings. They just fall off. They fall off for like 5 months. They stop doing psychic fairs. They want to get back into it. You need to consistently be showing up. I think the universe is seriously watching that, because this isn't just street psychic work. This is you doing light work, okay? So it's light work first, business second. Light work first, business second. But if you want business to ever be second, you've got to prove to the universe that you're going to show up. Now, you know, right in direct, almost, you know, congruent with this is people not showing up for the fucking appointments. Like, how, you know, I fail my students when they stiff a guinea pig. You know, one of our volunteers, they don't show up for a psychic fair. They don't show up for something. Like, you've got to be professional. You have to make sure you're showing up on time. None of us are perfect, but you have to be there. So make sure you're consistent with the bookings that you have. I would also suggest getting yourself out there as much as you can. I know it's a lot of labor, but doing lives, you know, getting on social media. And if you don't like, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want my face being shown. Well, I don't want my hands being shown. Well, I don't want to have to wear something. I'm worried about the camera. Take the camera off of you. Do it a different way. Do from a different angle. 99.9% of my videos are like a plant, the water, a bird, my cat, you know, and then it's just me talking over it. There are a million ways to show up without having to fully, okay, show yourself. Now, I'll always do this probably for, you know, for my live shows. I have to fix TikTok. I'm going to just yell and continue to answer. But find a way to go live as much as possible where you are comfortable. Okay, where you are comfortable. Another great example is that, you know, I've had a lot of people complain about my, mostly weirdo men, but complain about my setup and be like, why don't you put the camera closer to your face? And why don't you do this? I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. Can you hear me? No, because you're not listening anyways. You know what I mean? But like, the thing is, I'm comfortable here. I don't like stuff up in my face. I don't use lighting. I don't like a bunch of, but guess what I do? I show up every Wednesday. I show up every Wednesday to do a show because I'm enjoying the atmosphere. Find a way to get yourself on camera, on video, right? Or at least pumping out shorts and stuff like that. That's where you're going to make the connection with people, because when you're doing light work, genuine light workers, and you are one, when you are doing light work, they need to connect with your energy, your voice, your vibes somehow. And we are blessed to have that technology these days, okay? You're welcome, Marie. Good luck. She's amazing, by the way. I'm promoting her, okay? Tarot and psychic mediumship, amazing. And Mairead works at Ivy's Healing Call Center also, and Reiki, she does. Amazing. Okay, are we gonna move on to any more? Are we at time? Okay, we have another one. Gonzalez on TikTok. I always dream of dead people. I don't know. Is that their way of talking to me? Well, it could be. When you are dreaming of dead people, I'm just kind of wondering how you know they're dead. Like other people's dead people? Like people you know they're dead people? That's really interesting. If it's people you know, if it's people you're going to come into contact with, you identify these dead people. Yes, it could absolutely be. That's how mediumship works for a lot of mediums. There's a whole show called Medium. Patricia Arquette, right, played. She works at Criminal Investigations, Missing Persons. Anne something. Who can help me in the comments here? What the heck was her name? She worked with Criminal Investigations, Missing Persons. She's a famous psychic, as far as I know. She's still working with the cops. But then Patricia Arquette did a series, a show called Medium, and in that, and we bring this up when we do Criminal Investigations, Missing Persons in our training here. We bring up how for most people who are going to see through messenger of death syndrome or mediumship communication from a victim, the deceased, a possible future victim, it comes through the sleep state. So mediumship for, I would say, a lot of readers only happens then, or so they think. or so they're comfortable with. And if that's all you're comfortable with, then that's great. You have a ton of material to work with. You know, if you don't like it, you can always stop it and say, I'm not going to deliver these messages, so don't, you know, I'm setting a boundary. That's fine too, of course, if that's your choice. But it's, oh, people you do not know. All right, well, I mean, you don't know that they're dead then either. You know, I wonder if some of this you're misconstruing information here, like you've got spirits showing up, you got people in your dreams. I would say that for those of us, and I would love to see, you know, comments in the comment section, because I've had these the last 2 to 3 nights where I'm working with people I don't know at all. I'm not assuming that they're dead, you know. They may seem dead because they're in other dimensions. You know, they're not having the human experience I'm having right now, but that doesn't make them dead, technically, you know. So the last 3 nights I've been doing like a lot of meetings and stuff and working on things and working with my guides and their guides, and we're all, you know, there's been a lot going on. So usually I think when you find yourself in these dreams where you're in like buildings with a lot of meeting rooms, or there are a lot of meetings going on, or you're constantly in partnership with all these people and you're like, who are all of these people? You know what I mean? It's a sign of one of the things I was talking about earlier, even in this show, of possibly training to be a guide or training to intervene on behalf of what people need, you know, healing work. You know, you're becoming more of a healer. You want to pay more attention in those dreams, not so much about them, but more about what you guys are all doing together. What are they doing? What are you doing? What are you doing collectively? You know, what's the work? What's the point? What's the lesson? Because they may not be dead. I mean, none of us are dead. Even the dead aren't dead, right? Energy just transforms, and it gets real wonky in the sleep state to kind of put people in categories. You really can't. It's like a free-for-all, which is pretty awesome, actually. Allison DuBois is the woman who works with the private investigators and police, because at night she receives dreams of dead people, victims, and crimes that are being committed, and then they made that show, The Medium, based on her. Patricia Arquette played her. Thank you, Allison DuBois. All right, we are at time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm really glad I got to do this tonight. It is hands down my favorite show. Thank you for continuously supporting me so that I get to do it. And thank you so much, because I used to only do maybe 2 shows per month, and you guys have shown so much interest that I've been able to do 1 to 2 shows per week. My goal is to get up to 2 shows per week. So keep supporting, sharing, subscribe, drop a comment, and give this video a thumbs up. I will be back next Wednesday. I'm here every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 4. I think next Wednesday, what the heck is next Wednesday? I think it's the Unbound Sage. No, I think it's Ask Ivy, okay, where you're going to get to ask whatever your question is: love life, health, travel. You know, you're looking at work, a relationship, family dynamics. You can ask to speak to a loved one or a deceased pet, whatever it is. And I will give you an answer from my own psychic ability and deliver out messages to you from spirit. If you need a reading in the meantime, you can go to Ivy Rivera, psychicmedium.com. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.